Hi everyone, if you like what I do, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and consider checking out my Patreon. Enjoy the video. For 1,000 generations, the old gods of Argent D'Nur, the Wraiths, were thought to have once slumbered within the planet's core, awoken only when the world was impaled by a cosmic spear, freeing them to fly forth and breathe life into all things with their Wraith song. There are some truths, though, that were hidden from even the oldest of civilizations, truths that would prove the Wraiths beyond even the great beings the Argenta believed them to be. Gods had begun. Humanity had all players deep and challenging, with different is less likely to get me horribly So it is told that Davos, favoured child and future Dark Lord, was sired by the Father of all things, and gifted a realm to roll over to pursue all of his ambitions and dreams. The immortals of Urdak witnessed Davos' desire to cast off the chains of immortality for all those of Jakad, and deemed his pursuits a threat, going on to strip the primeval of his physical form and seal his essence away within a life sphere. It was a betrayal that is said to have led directly to the fall of Jakad, into the domain now known as Hell. Deceitfulness, it would seem, had been one of the very first cardinal sins, for however unfavourable the events reflected upon the Father, the ultimate truth had always been far worse. It had never been the Father who had brought all life into existence, but the Dark Lord and one true God, Davos. For all the falsehoods perpetuated by the Father, Jakad had, indeed, once been a gleaming land, falling to darkness because of his own betrayal. Only that betrayal had been the usurpation of Davos' existential throne and the forced imprisonment of the highest of all gods. Knowing the ultimate truth, it is safe to assume that history proceeded somewhat differently than Maker doctrine dictates. While it is prudent that all of the Father's teachings come under great scrutiny, it would seem that, either through a desire to maintain some form of continuity, or simply through sheer guilt, that all of his words are based in some amount of truth. For instance, there may be no reason to dispute the origins of the Makers, as where it is written that they were born of the division of the Father's great soul, it could be that he was merely recreating an action conducted by Davos before him. In the primordial age of Argent D'Nur, before life teemed across its surface, the world was struck by a colossal cosmic spear, large enough to impale and entirely run through the planet, leaving a monumental crystal mountain of sorts at each of its poles. Argenta legend tells that the act was a random celestial encounter, but one that awoke mighty beings who slept within the core of Argent D'Nur. Once more, the truth of events will be something quite different though. It may have been that there were never any ancient gods within the planet's core, for the crystal spear, its surface too purely refined, the innards a fantastical mesh of rock, crystal and majestic architecture, was in reality a ship. A ship constructed at the hands of the one true God, meant to ferry his messengers, envoys of his great power throughout the universe. Where the Father would later derive his own undying servants in his creator's fashion, Davos had already formed his primordial makers, the creatures the Argenta would later know as the Wraiths. Bearing a superficial similarity to the true form of their younger brethren, the Wraiths bore more the appearance of the horned demons that would later come to populate Hell. It was apparent that this had been intended as the prototypical template for all life created by Davos. But as so many species would come to prove, the appearance taken by those touched by the Wraith song, the breath of life bestowed by the true Lord, would come to vary wildly. Like the Father had taken the throne from Davos though, so would his own creations reap the rewards sown by their predecessors. The Makers would themselves travel into the cosmos to seek out the life seeded by the Wraiths, and on Argent D'Nur, like on so many other worlds, they would gift their power to the occupants and supplant those who had come before. But eventually, all roads for the Makers would lead back to their one true creator, as they eventually became reliant on the energy of Hell to survive, allowing portions of their conquered world to fall to the Dark Realm. In time, this would include the Wraiths of Argent D'Nur, and knowing the great power of the Dark Lord they held, Hell would come to retake what belonged to them, siphoning their strength to fuel their unending war. In time, the Slayer would come to put an end to both the Makers and the Dark Lord himself, but it may always be that it was Davos, the Dark Lord of Hell, who had created the first Makers, and ultimately it would be these firstborn who had seeded all life within the cosmos. Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked what you saw, then please consider liking the video, subscribing and sharing it with your friends. If you want to support the channel even more, then head over to Patreon, become a channel member or buy some merch. Links are all down in the description. I hope you all have a great day and I'll see you next time.